Quick, name the most non-political, non-partisan branch of the government. Well, if we remember a Schoolhouse Rock, most Americans, they would have said easy. That's the Supreme Court here. But more and more often, more and more people are saying, I'm not so sure. With the memories of Bush v. Gore and Citizens United still fresh in people's minds, all this week's rulings on immigration and health care front and center in the presidential race, Americans seem to have less faith than seemingly ever in the objectivity when it comes to the Supreme Court. Well, that was reflected in this poll taken before the immigration ruling even came down on Monday. More than 3/4 of Americans in the respondents to this poll think that justices allow their positions and political views to trump their straight-up analysis of the law. You'll have to believe me on those numbers. And what we heard from the court Monday certainly didn't help. Quick glance by the dissent read by Justice Antonin Scalia brings up some troubling points. Now, he said that states would not have entered the union, think about this, if they had known immigration laws would not be enforced. He said back in 1800, a lot of these states, well, we wouldn't have America today if the ruling that came down Monday went down that way. He said that slavery and the rules attached to the southern states applied to free blacks, and Scalia used his dissent to even go directly at the president, saying his decision on the DREAM Act rules, even though that decision, it should be noted, it came down 2 months after the arguments on the immigration law these guys decided yesterday were even held. Now, it's not just me asking these questions about the man with the nickname Nino. Whoever agrees is brilliant here, but when it comes to keeping his opinions out here, it's not just in the majority of dissenting opinions that he weighs in. You got court watcher, author, contributor to The New Yorker and CNN, Jeffrey Toobin. He said of Scalia's dissent Monday, quote, he saw it as an endorsement of illegal immigration and he was more than unusually outraged. He went off on the Obama administration like Mitt Romney on steroids. Now, this is hardly Scalia's first rodeo over the line of impartiality for the High Court, nor is he the only right-leaning justice who seems to play political games with his position in ways that most of us don't remember from earlier eras. And I want to bring in the table here because it's not just Scalia. You got Thomas's wife. You got folks openly speaking to, and this isn't just conservatives, but in this particular case, most recent appointees, it's been the most visible cases, to conservative groups here. And talking, I mean, going hunting with Dick Cheney when you're a Supreme Court justice, etc. If nothing else, it certainly plays into the notion that the objectivity is out the window, and these guys, primarily guys here, certainly have at least positions well formed before the cases even come to their desk. And in the opinion, he went directly, Richard, at the president, and that caught a lot of people off guard.
Look, I'd like to be precise on the words. I don't mind that they use their personal views or their ideology. That's what they're supposed to do. There's no such thing as an objective legal analysis. It's informed by a lot of stuff. The way I would phrase what he's doing is he's become partisan. Not political, that's okay, but partisan. And he's taken sides in an election like they did in Gore v. Bush. Excuse me. The problem here is that there's almost a sense of that their power is so great that they can try to influence an election, not just influence the law that all of us have to live under. I think he went way over a line. I don't think he's alone, and I think it's going to have there's going to be a reaction among the public, especially if they strike down the health care law.
I'm not naive, Dominic. I mean, since the Supreme Court came into existence, certainly people even came from the political world. They didn't always come from the bench here to be on the high court. And I don't even think that's a bad thing. I'm with Richard. You know, I don't believe there's a human being that's completely impartial. We all bring our own baggage to the table. However, whenever we talk about these cases, within the first two sentences now, we're like, it could be 5-4, 6-3. We already know, kind of. And I'm not even just pinning this on Scalia. I'm just saying there isn't even the veil of we'll wait and see. He's going to speak to the Heritage Group, or he's going to speak about whatever else, taking on the president. You're a Supreme Court justice. At least give the patina here that you're going to take a wait-and-see approach. It seems that these guys made up their mind before it even starts.
Well, let's lose the words. Let's eliminate kind of, and let's lose sort of. They are as partisan as can be, some members of the court, and I think we disagree a little bit because I think it's downright scary, and it certainly has made me rethink whether or not the Supreme Court should be lifetime tenure. Because, for example,
and by the way, the majority of people on that question, when polled, agree with Dominic, who says more people think that it should be, they didn't get into the length of the terms, but not a lifetime appointment.
I'm not picking on Justice Thomas here, but you already know. But you can take a case 5 years from now. He's going to take the most conservative opinion.
He's entitled.
He's not on the Supreme Court.
Of course
he's supposed to listen first.
Governor Cuomo, the former governor of New York, I think, and he's considered a liberal icon. I think Mario Cuomo, if he had accepted the Supreme Court nomination and been accepted, would be more balanced on the law. He wouldn't always go with the liberal point of view.
The question of liberal and conservative is not the standard to use. Standard to use is the one Richard talks about. Do they listen? Are they open-minded?
Okay,
and
so
are they partisan?
Okay, wait.
If the guy
Can I ask
really
you a
has
question?
a conservative
can I
ideology,
ask you a question?
He's entitled.
What is the point of me arguing a case before you if we already know you're going to take the most conservative opinion
What I find, Andrew, the
is?
most objectionable part of this is how many years have we heard, both in the confirmation hearings, well, what kind of justice will you be? I'm a strict constructionist. I believe in the letter of the law of the Constitution. Then all of a sudden they get to the bench. Now, agree or disagree with that form of judicial theory, okay? If that's really their theory, then they're not going to do remotely as much activism and interpretation as they do. And it seems time after time, if you are a strict constructionist, that's not how you'd rule. And they time after time do it, which is the part that tweaks me.
How many times have we heard from Republican lawmakers, Republican politicians saying those liberal activist judges? Well, we're getting extremely activist judges on the Supreme Court here on the conservative side. And the fear for me is that it's another example where you're hearing one thing and you're getting another. You're hearing a cloak, a guise for somebody's actual position, where it's I'm going to be as objective as I possibly can, when that's really French for I'm going to make these decisions based on whatever's in the best interest of my party. It's analogous to the deficit cutting and the budget concerns from Republican lawmakers in Congress who are really only using that as an axe to chop programs they don't
and just
like.
To keep it simple, just read for yourselves. Don't listen to me or anybody at the table. Read for yourself what Justice Scalia said and ask yourself a question. Why is he writing about the DREAM Act when that had nothing to do with yesterday's ruling and that came 2 months after he heard the arguments in this case? It's not his job. And again here, it's not just about Justice Scalia, but I think it's an issue all of us ought to be paying a little bit closer attention to.